Greeting and salutations. I am Lloyd, a producer at LCD Productions, and I have come to share this new series of visual audiobooks with you, the listener, the supporter, the viewer. Together we will go on a journey like never before, fly to new heights with Project Aerospace, explore new land and cityscapes with photations, even change the dimension of time through the power of time-lapse photography from live to tape. We'll even travel beyond the mind's eye into worlds captured and generated through animation from Thumbs United daily animation series. As we together go on these journeys filled with photography and theater of the mind, I hope you remember the core belief that we hold, that anyone can become the master of art, meaning that it is not some born skill what makes someone good at being creative. It is a desire to practice and spend time being creative that creates the master. I hope that these films, photography, and stories inspire you to set some time aside and practice some creativity. I believe if we all spend more time creating and being constructive, the world would be a better place, a more friendlier and fulfilling place. Thank you for coming. Let's begin this journey. This is Live to Tape with a partnership with Project Aerospace to complete the visual audiobook of the Girl Aviators and the Phantom Airship. Chapter 17, A Coward and His Ways. Peggy awoke the next day with a feeling of distant unease. She and her aunt had sat up till after midnight waiting Roy's return, but as we know, the lad was in a position from which he could not extract himself. An attempt had been made outside to communicate with the aviation grounds, but an unlucky aeroplane had blundered against the telephone wire during the afternoon flight, snapped the thread of communication. In spite of the late hour at which they had retired, however, Miss Prescott and her niece were up betimes, but early as it was, they found the little town all astir. Excursion trains were already pouring their crowds into the place, and the streets were fairly alive with humanity. Peggy's first act on awaking was to gaze out the window beneath which some fine trees grew. Not a breath of wind stirred their leaves. The air was as clear and as undisturbed as it was possible to be. Donning a white duck shirt and plain shirt waist, and dressing her hair in a becoming simple style, Peggy hastened to the office of the hotel, and going to the telephone switchboard, asked the operator to put her in communication with Roy's room. After several minutes spent in vain attempting to obtain an answer from Central, he had to inform the anxious girl that there was no reply. Thinking that after his late absence of the night before, Roy might have overslept, Peggy dispatched the bellboy to his room, but the report came back that the room was empty, that Roy had not slept in it. "See if you can get the executive office on the aviation grounds," said Peggy on the phone, but although the wire had been repaired and communication was easily established, there was no news of Roy. Worse still, for Peggy's peace of mind, she learned how, for the first time, that there had been no meeting at the aviation field the night before. "If your brother got a note to that effect, it was forgery," said the official, answering the call. Peggy fairly flew upstairs to her aunt's room. Rapidly she informed Miss Prescott of what happened. "Oh, I am certain now that hateful Fanning Harding has something to do with it," she almost sobbed. "Hush, dear," said her aunt, although in gentle lady's breast a great fear had arisen. "Everything may be all right, at any rate. I do not believe that anyone, no matter how anxious they were, that you should not compete in the race. Would you dare to resort to such methods to keep Roy out of the contest?" "I don't know so much about that, Auntie," rejoined the girl. "I was in our hangar yesterday afternoon, and I noticed a horrid-looking man prowling about with Fanning Harding. If it had not been too approachable, I should say that I knew the man's face." "My dear," exclaimed the good lady in astonishment. "Well," rejoined Peggy with conviction, "I am almost sure that the man was Duke Date, a workman who once was employed in his laboratory, a workshop by my father. He was a skillful mechanic, but Dad had to discharge him because he drank fearfully. He swore at the time that he would get even with us in some way, but we never heard any more of him. Yet, if that really was him with Fanning Harding yesterday, I'm awfully afraid that there is some mischief stirring. What you say, my dear, makes me also very anxious, responded Miss Prescott. Perhaps we had better communicate with the police at once. Not yet, Aunt, breathed Peggy. You see, Roy may turn up in time for the race, and if he does anything, we'll be all right. But Peggy, on the other hand, if we spread an alarm that he is missing, we shall be declared out of the contest. I see what you mean, my dear, was their response, and suppose that what you say is best. I feel positive somehow that we shall have news of Roy before long, and that no harm has come to him. But the morning wore on, and no word came. And meantime, every available source of information had been canvassed thoroughly, without result. Roy Prescott had totally vanished, or so it seemed. Peggy, as in duty bound, spent all she could spare of the morning at the aviation field, putting the finishing touches on the Golden Butterfly. The big contest was not to be held till the afternoon, and in the meantime some of the smaller events were flown off. But Peggy was too heartsick to watch the airplanes thunder around the course, which was marked out by red and white pylons, or signal towers. Instead, she remained in the hangar and kept a watchful eye on Fanning Harding, who was some mechanic, and the same man she had noticed about the hangar the day before was very busy over his machine, apparently, but no one obtained even a glimpse of Fanning's aircraft, for it was not wheeled out, and except when one or the other of his party dodged in or out, the doors of the hangars were closed. In the course of the morning, Fanning's father arrived, and not long after, to Peggy's unbounded delight, Jess and Jimsy and a party of friends drove up to Prescott's hangar. Why, Peggy, what's the matter with you? You look positively drowsy, exclaimed Jess, gazing at her friend after the greeting was over. And Roy, where is Roy? Demanded Jimsy. Yes, where is he? We want him to explain the points of this gasoline turkey buzzer to us, cried Ed Taylor, one of the gay party. I expect him here any minute, rejoined Peggy, and then drawing Jess and Jimsy aside, she related to him in a voice that shook in spite of herself the mysterious occurrence of the night and Roy's total disappearance. I'm going right over now and ask Fanning if he knows anything about it, announced Jimsy indignantly, as soon as the girl had concluded. Oh, please don't, begged his sister. I don't think it would be wise to now, put in Peggy. But Jimsy was not to be shaken in his purpose. Fanning was outside his hangar, smoking a cigarette and swaggering about, when Jimsy approached him. Perhaps the self-asserted young youth felt a bit alarmed at the look in Jimsy's eyes as he stepped up, but he assumed an impudent expression and blew out a puff of smoke, which he did not try to avert from Jimsy's face. Good morning, Fanning, said Jimsy, bottling up his temper at the other's insulting manner. Can you give me a few minutes of your private conversation? Well, I don't know. What is it about? Inquired Harding, more impudent than ever. It's about Roy Fanning. It's about Roy Fanning, said Jimsy seriously. I want you to tell me on your word and honor that you don't know where he is. Oh, do you, eh? Well, you have an awful nerve to come to me with such a question. How do I know where he is? The question was somewhat of a poser for Jimsy. That imperious youth had approached the other more or less on an impulse, and now that the direct question was put to him, he felt that he could not, for the life of him, put his suspicions into so many words. Well, you see, he said, somewhat confusedly, I had an idea that you might have seen him. Well, I haven't, and what's more, I don't want to, snapped Fanning aggressively. He was quite cool now that he saw Jimsy had nothing definite against him in his mind, but only a vague suspicion. You really mean that, Fanning? Rejoined Jimsy earnestly. His sister is terribly worried. He hasn't seen her since last night. Is that so? Fanning asked with a sudden assertion of interest. Then he can't race today, can he? I wasn't thinking about the race, said Jimsy. It was Roy himself I'm worrying about. Well, you may as well stop your anxiety, chuckled Fanning. How do you know he isn't off on a little spree? And that's enough, Fanning, Roy Prescott. That's enough, Fanning. Roy Prescott does not do such low-down things. Oh, you mean to imply that I do? Fanning came forward punctiliously. I'll tell you what it is, Jim Bancroft. You just take yourself away from this hangar as quickly as possible. I don't want anything to do with you. Do you understand? It's none of my business if Roy goes off and forgets to tell you where to find him. How do you know he hasn't gone off with those jewels? What do you mean? Jimmy's tone was as angry in reality now as Fanning Harding's had been in effect a few seconds before. But Fanning, in his bitter enmity toward Roy, could not see the danger signals in Jimmy's honest gray eyes. What do I mean? He drawled. Why, just this, that the investigation of the police has taken a new turn in the last few days, and that Roy is likely to be arrested within the next 24 hours for robbery. I'll bet he got wind of it and skipped out. I'll bet. How dare you? Peggy's eyes aflame stepped up, her bosom heavily angrily. How dare you say such things, you coward? Well, I ain't a coward enough to steal a girl's jewels, and then... Hold on there, Fanning. Stop right there. It was Jimmy's turn, but Fanning was too worked up in his vindication anger to stop. I won't stop, he shouted. I'll say it right out. Roy Prescott is a... But before he could utter another word, Jimmy's fist shot out, and Fanning's chin happened to be in the way, and he felt himself suddenly propelled off his feet, elevated into the air. So he thought to recover his balance as he reeled, his foot caught in a bit of turf, and whirling his arms like one over those figures over the top of a barn, he measured his length. Had enough? Asked Jimsy mildly, rolling up his sleeves. No, you despicable young whelp, roared Fanning, utterly throwing aside all precedence. I haven't. He leaped to his feet and rushed forward to Jimsy. As he did so, just gave a shriek, and in the angry, half-crazed youth's hand there glistened a long clasp knife. Jimmy, look out, cried the girl. But before the frightened Fan could spring up upon Jimmy, who was utterly unprepared for the production of the deadly weapon, a dainty foot in white canvas outlining shoes and silk stockings flashed out from under Peggy's skirt. It caught Fanning as he sprang, and the next instant, for the second time that day, he fell sprawling on the ground. Next chapter is chapter 18, The Daring of Peggy. Thank you for experiencing this journey we have created here at LCD Productions. For more information on how to support these films and projects, visit photations.com/support. Fine art photography prints from journeys around the world can be purchased from photationsstore.com, and digital downloads of our photography and visual audiobooks is available for personal use. Commercial use is available at a different rate. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you here again.